Schapelle Corby, Stuart Diver, Sally Faulkner, Lindy Chamberlain. What did these people have in common? They each were paid for an exclusive interview in a practice known as chequebook journalism. Simply put, chequebook journalism is when a big news company pays a source for the exclusive rights to publish their story. This really only happens when something big has grabbed audience attention and the organisation wants to do an exclusive, in-depth and heartfelt interview. Why? Because they know the public is highly interested and the story is going to sell. So, selling or telling, is one more ethical than the other? Let's look at perhaps the biggest case of chequebook journalism in Australia, the Beaconsfield miners, Todd Russell and Brant Webb. It was April 2006 in the tiny town of Beaconsfield, Tasmania. Todd and Brant were at work when an earthquake caused the mine to collapse. They were trapped underground for 2 weeks before they were rescued and made it back to the surface. The story captured the hearts of Australians and was across every headline in the nation. Therefore, when the men finally stepped out of the lift and back onto solid ground, there was a swarm of not just family and friends, but media crews waiting to charm the men into their television studios for gripping, reveal-all stories. Only a few days later, Todd and Brant appeared on Channel 9's The Footy Show. Host, Eddie Maguire, asked the pair about their time trapped underground, to which Todd Russell famously replied, "Tell me how big your chequebook is and we'll talk." This was the first time that chequebook journalism had been publicly outed, and a member of the public had been so upfront about their monetary value to the media. Todd and Brant went on to secure $2.6 million for a 2-hour interview with 60 Minutes. One of the largest payouts for a story yet. You might be thinking, good for them, but is chequebook journalism really that good? Is chequebook journalism even journalism? Some critics say chequebook journalism is infotainment, not news, because of the tendency for bought interviews to be sensationalised. Organisations will only pay for interviews if the story will get a high viewership and thus lots of money. Therefore, they are more likely to embellish the story to heighten the drama and engage audiences. Additionally, sources may feel obliged to exaggerate story details or personal emotions since they are getting paid for it. The first rule of good journalism is accuracy, and if media groups or talent are dramatising their story so it is more appealing for audiences, accuracy may be conceded. Let's look at this promo for the Sunday night exclusive interview with Todd and Brant.
60 Minutes.
We can tell by the font, loud, deep voiceover.
The person I became after being stuck underground was a monster.
The choicest of grabs from the interview where the stoic men break through with emotion and the dramatising music, that the media group are trying to squeeze as many viewers and the most exciting story possible from their talent. It feels like a trailer for a movie. Do they lose sincerity? Or sensitivity when reporting on such a traumatic event for the men in such a businesslike, almost callous, money-making mindset? Even more importantly, journalists should be aware that chequebook journalism goes against the tenets of journalism. It places at risk the journalistic values of accurate and fair reporting, independence and impartiality. How? Chequebook journalism creates a conflict of interest. As soon as a journalist or media group agrees to pay a talent, they are tarnishing their own story. When a journalist whips out the chequebook, they are automatically placing their own agenda in the story. A journalist who pays for access to an interview is no longer an unbiased observer and reporter. Now they have their own stakes in the story. And whether there is real or only perceived bias, this compromises the core responsibilities and role of the journalist to give a balanced and fair report. As a journalist, paying for an interview creates a power imbalance over the talent. But journalists aren't meant to have power over the people they interview, because if we did, nothing we reported would be able to be taken at face value. Readers would have to factor in the conflict of interest and weigh up the accuracy and potential biases of the story. Paying for an interview makes it a lot harder for audiences to discern why a talent is motivated to share their story. And if the talent is motivated by money, what is being compromised for the sake of that story? The Society of Professional Journalists explicitly says do not pay for access to news. And many Australian news organisations, such as the ABC, have policies strictly forbidding it. The MEAA, the Media Entertainment and Arts Alliance, merely prescribes that journalists do their utmost to ensure disclosure of any direct or indirect payment made for interviews, pictures, information, or stories. Do you think that's enough? What do you think is the right course of action for journalists? Let me know in the comments below.